Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt. Welcome to New Brit Workshop and this workshop notes video number 22. Now in this video I'm going to cover a new bench that I've made and it's about the same size as an MFT3, very portable and very sturdy. You may just be able to see a new cabinet I've built at the back here. That's for the X-Carve. I'll explain why I've done that shortly. And there's a couple of other little bits and pieces. Now I've created the top for this new portable workbench using the Mark II path guide system. And that has these new style rulers, or path sticks as I call them, which comes with the kit. And the original path guide system had rulers which were a little bit like this. And these just were plain and simple straight piece of steel with 3mm holes in it. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice if we had the sort of premium quality that you get with the Mark II path sticks with the Mark I. So I had a chat with the clever people down at Axminster and suggested that actually it would make sense for them to have just one quality, one source of stock going through their workshop in order to produce path sticks, whether they're for the Mark I or the Mark II. And they've agreed, and what they're doing is they're taking the Mark II blanks and putting in 3mm holes. And those 3mm holes are going to be absolutely spot on, as usual. So the Mark I purchasers will be getting the premium quality path stick with their kit. And whilst I'm on the subject of the Mark II path guide system, they're a fairly rare beast at the moment. They all sold out at the Harrogate show. They all sold out of the stock that was created before Christmas. The stock that was created a week or so ago, just after the New Year break, went straight away. So please bear with Axminster, not me, I'm not making them. Please bear with them as they try and catch up with all the back orders. And there are back orders going all over the world. Now, I've been asked how to create offset holes on a worktop that you've already created and there are no 3mm holes left, so that you can then use the offset holes feature that comes with the new path guide system. And what I'm about to say applies to both the Mark II and also the Mark I system. If you've got holes already created in there at 20mm and you want to create some offset holes, this is one way of going about it. Now, unfortunately, my offset holes that I've created here were done at the stage when I was doing the 3mm drilling. But I'm going to pretend that we want to put an offset hole round about here and here. For the Mark I or the Mark II user, and I've got an old Mark I path stick here. So I've now put two path guide dogs in, and they're only just in a little tiny bit. They don't need to go in anymore. And if I put a path stick up against there, you can see already that I've created the ability to produce some offset holes in a line here. And that would produce an offset hole about here, so it wouldn't be actually in the centre there. If you had the locator dogs, which come with the path guide system Mark II, you could put a pair of those in, and they fit down all the way this time, and that gives you an extra 2.5mm of offset, because these are 25mm in diameter. Now, there may be other clever ways of setting something up, as I'm playing around with here, but the more you do this sort of complexity, unfortunately, the less accurate the offset holes will be. There are lots of different possibilities. As you can see, I could probably put an offset hole there, reverse this arrangement and put an offset hole in a similar place up there. Now I want to go back to the actual bench itself, and the first thing I want to point out that it is, for a portable bench, fairly stable. Portable bench made in the workshop is pretty stable. It wobbles just a tiny bit, but not a lot. It means you can actually use it as a platform for planing. As you can see, it's perfectly reasonable for that. And because it will fold up, as I'll demonstrate shortly, it means that in a small workshop you can tuck it out of the way when you don't need it, or you can pop it in the back of the car and take it to a job site. So I'll just pop it on its side. Now, the reason I built this folding bench was after my experience at the Harrogate show, where we really did need some fairly stable platforms to do the demonstrations of the path guide system. And I was told by the Axminster people that whatever bench we took there had to be able to fit on a standard Euro size pallet, and that means it's got to be less than 1200 millimeters. So I just pop these stays out of the way, and then I can push those legs in. They pivot on bits of 1 centimetre aluminium bar, which is running through this block and also partly into the side here. And the other leg folds in. And now you can probably see that the legs are completely within the area formed by the edging here. And this is 140 millimeters wide. It also means, for the purpose of the show, or if you're going to a job site, if you have this upside down flat like that, you can then put things in here and then put things on top. And then when you want to open it out, it's very simple. Open out one leg like so, the other one comes out as well like so. And the stays work in a clever way. You can probably just make out there's a brass peg sticking out from there. There's also a magnet here. In the inside of the side, there's a magnet there, and there's a hole which that peg will fit into. Now, when that peg is in that hole, the magnet holds it in place. And that will keep it in place even if there's a lot of stress being put on the actual leg itself, because that peg will keep it in place in that direction, and the magnet is keeping the stay firmly in there as well. And I'll put this other one up, and that one's in place as well. And you can probably see here I've got a piece of wood which I've stuck on the side here. It's at the appropriate angle so that when these things come together, that forms a nice flush fit. These stays are held onto the legs with just a simple pair of hinges, and I've not inset those hinges in a fancy way at all, because this is a tool, it's a utility item, it's not a piece of furniture. And there it is, ready for operation. Now, at the moment I'm not making the plans available for this. I'm in negotiation to see if I can get the plans produced on a commercial basis by another company. Now, the new cabinet for the X-Carve has been built out of necessity because there's a chance that we might be moving house in this coming year, and there's also a chance that my workshop may not be as big, and so everything may have to be cut down in size a little bit. Now, my original cabinet for the X-Carve was for the 1000mm machine, but now I've got the 750mm machine, so it's much smaller. So that has given me the opportunity to reuse most of the materials in that original cabinet to make this new one. Let me show you what it's like. First of all, there's a lid here which comes up, and this was the original X-Carve logo there. I've got a couple of blocks, one that goes there and one that goes here. And there's a very slight angle, it's about 5 degrees on there, so that goes in like so. So that's keeping that lid safely from falling down and trapping my fingers. A couple of pins here, and these pins engage in a couple of holes there, which helps to make the whole thing a little more rigid. Now, in order to get this front out, one lifts it, and if I do that, I'll lift it up like so. And you may see on the end here, there's a brass dowel sticking out there, and at the bottom here there is a slot, and corresponding to the slot there and on the other end, there's a pair of dowels sticking out on the left and on the right at the bottom of the cabinet sides. And that means then that this will drop into place and it won't fall out when everything's packed away. You'll also notice perhaps a couple of screw inserts, one here and one here, and there are corresponding holes through the side here that should the whole thing be transported, I can put screws in from the outside to absolutely keep this panel firmly in place. Now, in order to get the mechanism up, there's a handle at the bottom. There are no gas struts with this at all, just a handle at the bottom here. I start pulling it up towards me, and when it gets to about this position, I've got a pair of spring-loaded stays, one on each side, and that will hold it in place just temporarily. At the moment, those stays tend to make the sides bow out a little bit, and so one couldn't rely on this for any length of time, and I always make sure I've got a hand here just in case. Then there are two ways of getting this in its final position. The first way, if the whole cabinet was screwed to the wall, I've got a little plate there and one on this side, and through those plates I can put a screw, and here's a screw here, and I've got those screws now fitted one each side. Now this is not screwed to the wall, and of course there's a risk now, certainly as the gantry comes this way, that it could topple over. Now the other way of keeping this upright is to use the front panel. You may see on the floor a piece of wood. It's just pushed against the bottom rail, and it's of a particular width. I'm going to get this panel roughly in place, like so, and then I'm going to lift this up and slide this underneath. And at any stage I can rest whilst I'm doing this process. I've got a little pencil mark on the side there and on this side here, so I know where the top of the panel should end up. There it is. That's now in position, and the bottom is tucked in, and that's now safe to use even when it's not fixed to the wall. And as an added safety feature, when you're using this sort of arrangement to support the weight of the platform, on the inside of the platform I've got a stay which comes down, and then that will go against the front here, and I can put this screw in here, and that's now holding the front nicely in place. And I've got the same on the other side. Now the working area now is reduced to match the reduced size of the 750 X-Carve. I've put some power sockets here. One is for the router, and it's got its name on there, and I switch that on and off individually there. One is for the X-Carve itself. I'll use another one for the power supply for my computer, which would be attached to all of this when it's working. That's the mains cable that goes to that bank of sockets, and it's just loosely held onto that rail with a Velcro strap. Now you can see there's quite a lot of carpentry going on around here. Now these pieces, there's one this side, one the other side exactly the same, and there's this one here. And these are all designed to hold the gantry and support the weight of the DeWalt router when the X-Carve is tilted into the vertical position. Because under no circumstances do we want any strain to be put on the actual mechanism itself. Everything is screwed down onto this platform, so it's not going to fall off in any way, shape or form. And I should have mentioned that with the X-Carve cabinet, when it's all folded down and the lid's in place, it's the same height as the standard MFT3 and all of my other workbenches at 900mm. Well, you can see I've been fairly busy. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.